In Arles, 1891, the young Armand is beating the man for insulting his father over the delivery of the letter from Vincent van Gogh. He gives a blow to the man's face and gets into the bar. The letter falls down his pocket during the fight. The officer comes there and asks the man the reason for their fight. The man tells him that they get into a fight over the crazy red. He hands him over the dropped letter. He gives it to Armand, saying that he has dropped it behind. The young man replies that it is not his letter. It is Vincent's letter to Theo van Gogh, his brother. Armand tells him that the letter is handed over to his father by Vincent's old landlord, Gino, as he finds it during the clear-out. His father asked him to deliver it to Theo van Gogh in person, as the letter has been returned many times with the stamp of undeliverable. Armand is annoyed over his father's wish. He says that his job is to bash metal into shape, not deliver the letters. They both go to the sitting area. Armand takes the bottle of alcohol from the table of the intoxicated slept man. They sit at a table, and Armand is having a drink. He is still trying to find out the logic of delivering a deceased man's letter. The officer tells him that his father is only trying to pay for his respect. The young man is angry, as his father is hated by people for not signing the petition of throwing Vincent out of town. The lady from another table adds that she signed the petition as Vincent was a madman. The officer does not agree and says that Vincent was an interesting man. He only turned into an odd man after he met Gogh, who started living with Vincent in his yellow house that he has turned into a hostel for painters. Gogh became the master of the hostel. After some time they got into each other's throats. Gogh left the hostel. Vincent tried to stop him, but he went off without giving an ear to Vincent's cries. After the departure of Gogh, Vincent got into anxiety and depression. One day, he came into the bar and presented Beverly with a wrapped gift and went off. When Beverly opened it, she screamed as there was a human ear with blood all around in the wrap. Armand says that he has not a good memory of him that can make him interesting, as while cleaning out his mess of cutting off the ear of an old man, his father is insulted by people. In the evening, Mr. Rulin is finding his son as he is meant to be on a train for Paris. He asks the men sitting outside the bar about his son. They tell him that his son is inside. He goes in. Armand is sleeping with his head on the table. Mr. Rulin wakes him up and takes him out of the bar, holding him to make him stand as he is intoxicated. He takes him to a restaurant to make him get his senses back. He asks him to give his condolences to Theo van Gogh. Armand adds that Vincent was a weak man when he took his own life. Mr. Rulin replies that when he will get old, he will find out that life has made the strongest into timid and weak. He further says that after the ear incident, nobody gave a chance to him. Even the kids started tormenting him. His neighbors, the police, the mayor, and the whole town were against the ill man. Vincent went for therapy in St. Remy to get better and get discharged, being cured. He shows him a letter from Vincent in which he wrote that he is absolutely fine. He wonders what made him decide to take his own life in 6 weeks. Armand asks him what is the point of delivering the letter now. The postman Rulin replies that Theo and Vincent were very close. Vincent used to write to his brother every day. He says that delivering the letter is important, as everyone would want the last letter of their beloved people. He gets on the train to Paris. The train reaches the station in Paris. Armand gets down the square. He looks for Theo around the city. He goes to Vincent's paint supplier's shop. Entering his place, he asks about Theo van Gogh. The man offers him a drink. Armand takes the seat holding the drink. He tells Tanguy that Theo is not at the address they have got. The guy says that he might know about Theo. The man says that he might not meet Theo, as after the passing of Vincent, Theo went into decline. He spent the last whole day with his brother and kept asking Vincent the reason for taking his own life. But Vincent asked him to talk about life, not passing away. The unanswered question made him depressed, which caused his passing. After 6 months after Vincent's burial, Armand asks him how Vincent passed away. He replies that he shot himself in the fields while painting for an unknown reason. He adds that Theo told him that Vincent's unhappiness has been since his childhood, as he always wanted to fit in with the family, but his family always made him feel unwanted. Theo was his only supporter in the family. Vincent joined his uncle's art dealership, but was thrown out in disgrace. He tried for his father's profession, the church, but failed in the pastor's exam. Then, he took a job as a lowly missionary but sacked up from there too. Theo's belief in him made his head high. He picked the brush at the age of 28, and there was no stopping him. Then Paris happened to him. Every artist comes to Paris, because everything in art happens there. Artists come and settle in. But he came there to learn something, and after learning, he went off. Tanguy further says that he met him after 2 years, and Vincent made him think that his story will end well, as his star was finally rising. He says that 6 weeks later his passing put him in a state of shock. Many artists think that he is a martyr of art. He turned into an expert artist from an amateur in just 8 years. He adds that his funeral is attended by Dr. Gogh, who looks after him in overs. He mourns and cries throughout the speech. After an hour, he took off the best of Vincent's paintings from the walls as if they were his. It seems that he has obtained full confidence of Theo. He asks him to meet Dr. Gashett, and asks him the reason for Vincent's passing, as the doctor might still be close to Van Gogh's family. The man hands him the letter that he should take it back to his father. He goes out. Armin takes the train for Overs to meet Dr. Gashett and hand him Vincent's letter. On the way, he writes a letter to his father to inform him about Theo's passing and his further journey to deliver the letter to a trustee of the Van Gogh family. After reaching Overs, he gets to the residence of Dr. Gashett to meet him. He hears the sound of a piano playing. He sees Margaret Gashett from the open door. While trimming the plants, Louise Chevalier sees Armin peeping through the door. She asks him about the reason for his arrival. Armin says that he wants to meet Dr. Gashett to deliver Vincent's letter in person, as he wants to ask him about Vincent. She tells him that Dr. Gashett will come the next day. She further tells him that Vincent seemed to be a strange person with odd and cold eyes. She asks him not to stir up things all over again. He goes off, walking on the road, smoking, and trying to get to the residence. While he is on the road, the rain starts. He gets into an inn to save himself from the rain. He meets the innkeeper and asks for a room. She offers him the hot coffee. She asks him about his presence in Overs. He tells her that he wants to deliver the letter of the late Vincent Van Gogh. She gets sad after hearing the name Vincent. She says that Vincent lived with them in one of the rooms of this inn. She tells him how one day, Vincent came covering his wound and went straight up to his room. Later on, Dr. Gashett came, but he did not take out the bullet, although he could do that. In the afternoon, Theo arrived all shocked up, screaming and asking Vincent what happened to him. He stayed with Vincent on his last day. The next morning, Vincent passed away, and the mystery of his passing was buried along with him. She says that Vincent was a quiet man with a lively nature. They liked him, and he liked them too. He was happy in this place. She adds that Vincent was crazy about painting. He painted in the rain, all soaked up, in the fields, in the coffee bars, and on the rivers. She tells him that he loved the rivers the most. She asks him to speak to the boatman. He will tell him more about Vincent. Armin goes to the boatman. He asks him about Vincent. The boatman tells him that Vincent used to be there mostly before dawn to catch up some sort of special light on his canvas. He used to come to paint at times, and sometimes he just looked around quietly. He says that later in the summer, he used to come with Gashett's daughter. She is quiet too, as he never happened to have a word with her. Vincent and Margaret used to row the boat often, and talked a lot with each other. He says that he saw Vincent with that girl last time, and after that, he passed away. He says that he should visit her and ask her about Vincent. Armin tells him that the housekeeper might not let him in the house. The boatman tells him that Louise Chevalier works as a warden at church too. He can visit Margaret at that time. Armin gets back to the inn. Innkeeper offers him a drink. While sipping the drink, he asks her about the relationship between Vincent and Margaret Gashett. She tells him that the girl still goes to take flowers to his grave daily. It seems like they had a good bonding. She further says that according to the housekeeper, Dr. Gashett did not like Vincent to meet his daughter. The church bell rings. Hearing this, Armin gets up and runs to the church. He stands by the wall and waits for the housekeeper. The housekeeper comes and she wonders to see him in church. She tells him that on the last day, she saw him drunk even on God's day. The church bell rings. She goes in. Armin goes to Gashett's house. He sees Margaret from the window, playing piano. She notices him, gets up, and lets him in. She says that it takes him so long to come there again. He tells her that he wants to solve the mystery of Vincent's passing, as it might be a help to Vincent. She sarcastically says that it will be of no use now, as he is already gone. He replies that her taking of flowers might also add up to no good to Vincent. She says that she does it out of respect. She further says that Vincent used to visit his father. They both like art and the same painters. He even made jokes about Gashett during that last Sunday lunch with Vincent, his brother, and his family. He says that it seems like one big family. She denies it, saying that Vincent only came to see his father, and sometimes he painted here that too on the recommendation of her father. Armin says that the boatman told him that Vincent and she had a very friendly relationship. An innkeeper told him that Dr. Gashett did not like it. He had a heated argument with him last time, then he passed away. She says that the villagers just spread baseless gossip around, and Vincent's argument with her father does not make his father a villain. She asks him to leave the house. She goes to the piano and starts playing it again. Armin bids her goodbye and goes off. In the inn, he sits at the table. Innkeeper is serving other customers and ignoring him. He asks her if she gets some time to talk. He tells him that he confronted Margaret and that she denied any kind of friendship between her and Vincent. Innkeeper says not to trust the Gashett. She further adds that Vincent and Dr. Gashett were similar on the outside only. On the inside, they are like cheese and chalk. Vincent was a kind man and not like that snobbish Gashett. He asks her if she met Vincent's brother, but she denies it and says that Theo only comes at the invitation of Dr. Gashett. Nor did Vincent ever visit his family. She says that the day before his passing he was in a hurry, and gave him a list to get painting supplies, as he has to complete the painting to deliver it. She says that there might be something sudden that causes his passing. She suggests he open the letter to get some hints. She takes him to Vincent's room. He asks that is it the place where Vincent lived. She replies and denies too. Innkeeper goes off. Armin sits on the bed and opens the letter that is written to Theo and Joe. The letter reads that Vincent is missing his family in the south. Days seem like weeks. He is hoping to see Theo with his family at his place. At the end of the letter, he writes, "Your loving Vincent." He closes the letter and goes to sleep. While sleeping, he sees a nightmare. In the nightmare, he sees wounded Vincent who is walking in the dark room holding his wound. He opens the door and a bright light gets in. Suddenly, Armin wakes up all sweating. He goes out of the inn, smoking his cigar. The little boy throws some stones at him. He chases him to a hut with a wooden roof and door. The place seems off the setting. He gets in. The door closes with a thud. It becomes pitch dark. He gets out quickly. He goes back to the inn. In his room, he is writing a letter to his father in which he informs him that he has not met the doctor yet. He also writes him that something is off and he wants to discover the truth. So, he will stay in over until he solves the mystery. He goes to the places where Vincent is seen on his last day. While in the field, he spots the same boy who threw stones at him earlier. He asks him to come out of the field. The boy runs again. Armin chases him but he hides in the trunk of the tree. An old man is working near the tree trunk. He asks Armin if he needs any kind of assistance. Armin asks him about the little boy. He replies that he is his nephew and is harmless. He asks him about Vincent. The old man says that he did not see him in the fields being shot down. Nobody did. There was no evidence, so he does not believe it. Louise Chevier comes to the field to collect some flowers. She comes near Armin and tells him that Dr. Gachet would see him the next day. He asks her where she sees the three lads drinking. She replies, "In the fields." He inquires about the gun with which Vincent shot himself. She said that it was a pistol gun of Ravu, who always kept it under his desk. He is not satisfied with the answer. She goes off. Armin gets back to the inn. He drinks to quench his thirst. He asks her about the lads to hang out with. She says that it must be Secretan, but they are in Paris now. She adds that especially René Secretan used to joke around Vincent, and once he put a snake in art supplies Vincent almost fainted. Then, he asks her about the gun. She tells him that his father had sold the gun long before Vincent shot himself. She says not to spread the gossip of a snobbish housekeeper as it contains only falsehood. She hands him over a letter which reads that Vincent is out of the job. She makes him out of the roof for the night. Armin goes to the boatman. He gives him the wine to keep himself warm. He tells him that he is out of the room because he asks Ravu about the gun. Boatman tells that the revolver is sold to René as he wanted to act like a cowboy. He further tells him that the lads used to bully Vincent. Armin says that he should have done something. He gets intoxicated. Boatman tries to give him a hand but he rejects it, saying that he would betray him too as he did to Vincent in friendship. The boatman questions him back and asks him what he does for Vincent. Armin gets quiet for a while, then says that he never claimed to be Vincent's friend and goes away. He fights with the locals being drunk while trying to save that odd kid from them to stop picking on him. The next morning, he wakes up at the police station. The policeman inquires him about his visit. He says that he is on the mystery of Vincent. The police officer tells him that he is already on it, and he suspects Gachet from the day Vincent shot himself. He adds that Dr. Masery asks him to file a report on his behalf for Vincent, as it is not a case of Vincent taking his own life, but a murder. Armin asks him about Dr. Masery. He goes out. Armin gets to Dr. Masery's place. He asks him why he filed a petition for Vincent. The doctor replies that he always thinks that Vincent was shot by someone else. People shoot themselves in the head, in the mouth, or heart. Nobody can shoot in the stomach to pass away. He further adds that the shot was from a distance. Armin gets convinced by Dr. Masery's logic. He goes again into the field and sits there. Margaret appears there. He gets furious at her for hiding the truth that Vincent was shot by someone else. She tells him that it is neither she nor her father to be blamed. She says that Vincent was a genius. He painted masterpieces in art, and her father used to take his paintings with him into the room and copied them, because he loves art to the core. Her father asked her to stay away from him, so Vincent cannot get distracted and can create beautiful art. After some time, Vincent and her father argued over her. Then Vincent left the place. The next time his father saw him was after the bullet shot. She says that Vincent always appreciated the little big thing in life, which is why she gives her share by presenting him flowers after his passing. She goes off holding the flowers. The next morning, Armand arrives at the residence of Dr. Gachet to meet him. Louise receives him and takes him to the garden where Dr. Gachet is waiting for him. They shake hands. Louise serves the tea and goes in. Dr. Gachet asks him the purpose of his coming to Overs. Armand tells him the whole incident and keeps on insisting that Vincent was murdered. Dr. Gachet tells him that it was not a murder. He adds that Vincent was all calm before the arrival of his brother at the Gachet house. Theo was all weary. He had a baby and wife, a family of his own. But due to the painting supplies for Vincent, he had not saved a penny for his family. The paintings too were useless as nobody was ready to buy them. One day in a heated argument, Vincent blamed him for his failure as he used to copy his masterpieces. He called him a fraud. In anger, Dr. Gashett spat the truth of his masterpieces and blamed him for the weary condition of his brother, as his brother paid the price for his masterpieces and would pass away one day supporting his useless art. Vincent panicked and ran out hurriedly. The next day, Dr. Gashett saw him in his room lying with a gunshot. He asked him why he did that. Vincent replied that maybe it is better for everyone. There was no doubt that he took his own life just not to trouble his brother and friends. Dr. Gashett goes into the house, then comes back with a letter. He tells Armand that it is one of the letters that Vincent has written before starting his journey of becoming an artist. He hands it over to Armand and asks him to read it before starting his life journey. He bids farewell to Dr. Gashett and goes out. He jumps on a horse carriage to reach the train station to go back to Arles and opens the letter. The letter reads that he is a nobody in the eyes of the world, but soon he will make his mark with his work and let the world know what is in his heart. In Arles, Armand is sitting on a bench. His father, who is looking for him, comes there and hands him a copy of a letter from Vincent that Theo's widow has sent for Armand. He opens it. It says that passing away is never difficult for a painter, as it is just a price to reach the stars. Vincent says goodnight, and the letter ends with your loving Vincent.